Subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts. Amina stood just outside the towering glass doors of the exclusive spa, her breath forming small clouds in the chilly morning air. The sun was beginning to rise, casting a soft golden glow over the city's skyline, but the warmth of the day seemed far away from her heart. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched a worn membership card, the only proof she had that she belonged here. Inside, the spa glittered with luxury. Polished marble floors reflected the sparkling crystal chandeliers. Above, the faint scent of jasmine and sandalwood filled the air. But outside, Amina felt exposed, vulnerable, like a fragile bird caught in a storm. "Ma'am, please step away from the entrance," a voice called sharply behind her. She turned slowly to face the speaker. Mr. Collin, the spa manager, a man in his late 40s, with a stern face and cold eyes that seemed to pierce right through her. "You can't be here," he said flatly. "This spa is for our valued clients, people who meet certain standards." Amina's throat tightened. I have a membership," she whispered, holding out the card. Mr. Collin glanced at it briefly, then let out a dismissive scoff. "That card is no longer valid. We reviewed our policies and decided to revoke memberships of those who don't fit the image we want." Amina's heart pounded in disbelief. "Don't fit the image? What does that even mean?" He didn't answer. Instead, he pointed firmly toward the exit. "Please leave, before I have to call security." She glanced around, hoping to see anyone, who would stand up for her. But the few people waiting outside the spa merely averted their eyes, whispering among themselves. Her gaze fell on her reflection in the glass door, her worn coat, faded scarf and scuffed shoes. It was true, she didn't look like the wealthy patrons inside. Her appearance was plain, almost forgotten. But inside, Amina was more than what they saw. She took a shaky step back. "Please, I just wanted a moment to relax. I deserve that." "Much." Mr. Collin's expression hardened. "Not here, not like this." A murmur rose from behind the glass. Several women in plush robes exchanged looks, some shaking their heads with thinly veiled contempt. Amina felt their silent condemnation as if it were a physical blow. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." But the door behind her remained closed. No one offered comfort or kindness. Then, just as she was about to turn away, a sleek black car pulled up at the spa entrance with a suddenness that startled everyone. The glass doors swung open again, and a tall man stepped out. His suit was flawless, tailored to perfection. His dark hair was neatly combed, and his eyes were sharp, confident. He moved with an air of authority that silenced the crowd. He looked directly at Amina. "Is this true?" His voice was calm, but commanding. "She was asked to leave." The manager swallowed hard, struggling to maintain composure under the weight of the man's gaze. "Sir, we only follow the policies," he began, but the man cut him off with a glare. "Enough!" The man turned to Amina. "Come with me." The crowd parted as he walked towards her, extending a hand. Amina hesitated only a moment before placing her trembling hand in his. They entered the spa together, and the atmosphere shifted instantly. Whispers followed them, a mixture of surprise, curiosity, and envy. The man's name was Tariq Malik, one of the richest men in the country, a billionaire with business interests across continents. He was known for his sharp mind and iron will, but very few knew about his personal life, even fewer knew about Amina. Inside a private lounge, Tariq sat down opposite her, removing his glasses with a sigh. "Why did you let them treat you like or that?" he asked gently. Amina's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know what else to do. I didn't want to make a scene." Tariq nodded slowly. "You don't have to be invisible anymore. I will protect you." She looked away, overwhelmed by the moment. "I never wanted to be a burden. I just wanted to live simply, be myself." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "You're not a burden. You're my wife, and no one has the right to judge you." But even as he spoke, a shadow flickered behind his eyes. Amina noticed it, the hint of worry, of secrets yet to be told. Because the truth was more complicated, Amina's life hadn't always been like this. Once she had been a bright girl, from a humble village, raised by a family who valued kindness and hard work. She had dreams, simple dreams of happiness, love and peace. When she met Tariq, she saw something different in him too. Not just wealth, but a desire to protect, to build a future together. But as Tariq's empire grew, so did the walls between them. The world they inhabited now was full of judgment and suspicion. People looked at Amina and saw only her humble origins, not the woman who had stood by Tariq through every trial. And today, at the spa, those walls had crashed down. Back in tJudge, the spa's main hall, the staff exchanged uneasy glances. The man who had just arrived was no ordinary client. His reputation preceded him like a storm cloud, impossible to ignore, hard to challenge. Mr. Collin felt the weight of that presence crushing him. He knew what he had done could cost him dearly, but the question was, why had Amina been targeted? In the first place, was it really just about her appearance, or was someone trying to send a message? The rest of the day passed in a blur for Amina. She tried to relax in the spa's luxurious treatments, but her mind churned with questions and doubt. Why had her membership been revoked without warning? Who had made the decision? And most troubling of all, why did it feel like this incident was just the beginning of something bigger? That evening, in the privacy of their penthouse overlooking the city lights, Amina sat quietly. Tariq poured them both tea, watching her carefully. "Tell me everything," he urged. She hesitated, then began. "It felt like they saw me as a threat or a mistake, like I didn't belong." Tariq frowned deeply. "I'll find out who's behind this." Amina nodded, but the knot in her stomach tightened. "I'm scared," she admitted softly. "Not just for myself, for us." The next morning, Tariq was already working. Calls were made, people questioned, rumors investigated, but every answer led to more questions. Why had the spa management suddenly changed its policies? Who had pressured them? Tariq's contacts whispered of rival business factions trying to destabilize him. And his family, Amina's past, once a source of pride, was now tangled in shadows and danger. Days turned into nights filled with whispered phone calls, hidden meetings, and growing tension. Amina felt caught in a storm, unsure of whom to trust. The wealthy world Tariq inhabited was full of glittering facades hiding sharp teeth. One afternoon, a courier arrived with an unmarked envelope for Amina. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside were old photographs, photos of her family, but also something else. A note that read, "You can't escape your past." Her breath hitched. Tariq saw the fear in her eyes and pulled her close. "No one will hurt you," he promised, though his own face was grim. But deep inside, both knew this was far from over. Amina's simple life had been shattered, and now she was forced to fight for her place, not just in the spa or the city, but in the world. Because sometimes being poor-looking wasn't the real problem. Sometimes the real enemy was the secrets people kept and the lies they told. The envelope still trembled in Amina's hands, the cold weight of the photographs pressed against her palm like a stone tied to her heart. She looked up at Tariq, his eyes filled with concern and determination, but also a shadow she had never seen before. "Who sent this?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Tariq shook his head slowly. "I don't know yet. But whoever it is wants to remind you, and me, that the past never really leaves." Amina swallowed hard, trying to steady her breath. She knew her past wasn't perfect. There were mistakes, secrets, things she had hoped to leave behind. But she never imagined they would come back to threaten everything she had built. Amina sat at the large mahogany desk in their penthouse, the photographs spread out in front of her. They were old pictures from her childhood, her parents smiling, a family gathering, a younger version of herself laughing in the sun. But hidden among them were photographs she hadn't seen in years, photos that showed her father in a tense meeting with shadowy figures and a blurred image of a document, stamped with the word confidential. Her fingers traced the edges of a photo of her mother looking tired, worried. "What is this?" Tariq asked, stepping behind her. "I don't know," Amina admitted. "I thought my family was just simple people trying to live honest lives. But these look like something else." The following day, Tariq used his network to trace the envelope's origin. The trail led to a small, nondescript office in a city on the outskirts, a place known for shady business deals and quiet. Threats, Tariq's jaw clenched. "Someone wants to drag you and me into something dangerous, something from your family's past." Amina's heart pounded. She had never told Tariq everything about her childhood. Not the things that scared her, the things she had buried deep inside. That night, she found herself restless, memories swirling in her mind like a storm. She remembered the small village where she grew up, the dusty roads, and the warm smiles of neighbors. But she also remembered the night her father disappeared. It had been a chilly evening, much like this. Her mother had been frantic, her eyes red from crying. "Your father has enemies," she had whispered to Amina, clutching her hands tightly. "People who want to silence him." Amina had been too young to understand fully, but she remembered the fear, the uncertainty. Now, years later, those fears were coming back to life. She turned to Tariq. "There's something I need to tell you." He nodded. "I'm listening." Taking a deep breath, Amina began. Her father had been a man of principle, working as an auditor in the local government. He had uncovered corruption and illegal dealings that involved powerful people. One night, after refusing to back down, he vanished without a trace. The family had been left with questions, pain, and silence. Amina's mother struggled to keep them afloat, but the weight of fear never left. Tariq listened intently, his face hardening. "This is serious," he said quietly. "People like that don't forget or forgive easily." Amina nodded. "I thought it was all behind us. I thought I could start fresh. But it seems your past isn't finished with you," Tariq said, "and neither am I." The next days were tense. Amina felt watched. Strangers' glances lingered too long. Phone calls came with silence on the other end. Tariq's security tightened, and their home became a fortress. One evening, as Amina was leaving a boutique, a man brushed past her in the crowded street. She felt a sharp prick on her arm. Panic surged through her veins. She spun around, but the man had disappeared into the crowd. Her arm stung, and she looked down to see a small dart, a tiny needle. Fear exploded in her chest. Back at the penthouse, Tariq examined the dart with a frown. "This is a sedative," he said grimly. "Someone wants to keep you quiet." Amina clenched her fist. "Why me? What do they want?" "They want the truth buried," Tariq replied, "but we're going to dig it up." Determined to uncover the mystery, Tariq contacted an old friend, a private investigator known for exposing secrets others wanted hidden. Amina watched nervously as Tariq spoke on the phone, arranging a meeting. The next morning, the investigator arrived. His name was Raza, a sharp-eyed man with a calm demeanor and a reputation for getting to the bottom of dangerous cases. Tariq briefed him on the situation. Raza listened carefully, nodding. "I've seen this before," he said. "People trying to use fear to control the past, but sometimes the past fights back." Raza began digging into Amina's family history. He uncovered old records, missing files, and people who had disappeared quietly. With each revelation, the picture grew darker. There were whispers of a powerful syndicate involved in illegal dealings, bribery and violence, and her father had been one of the few who dared to stand against them. One evening, Raza found something chilling, a file with the name Amina on it. Inside were reports, surveillance photos, and notes that suggested she had been watched for years. Someone had been tracking her every move. Amina's heart sank. "How long?" she asked. "Too long," Raza said, "and they're not going to stop anytime soon." Tariq looked at Amina, his eyes fierce. "We have to be careful." But Amina's spirit flared. "I'm not running," she said firmly. "If they want a fight, they'll get one." The next days were filled with paranoia and tension. Every phone ring made Amina jump. Every stranger's glance felt like a threat, but she refused to let fear rule her. One afternoon, while Tariq was away on business, Amina received a package. Inside was an old diary, her father's. Her hands shook as she opened it. The pages were filled with coded messages, names, dates, and warnings. She began to read, piecing together the story her father had hidden. He had uncovered a conspiracy that went higher than she imagined, and now those secrets were her burden. Late at night, Amina sat by the window, the diary in her lap. She thought about the woman she was, the simple girl from a village, the wife of a billionaire, and now a target in a dangerous game. She closed her eyes, breathing deeply. Tomorrow she would face whatever came next, because sometimes the greatest strength comes from facing the shadows of the past head-on. The diary lay open on the kitchen table, its worn pages whispering secrets only Amina could now read. She traced her fingers over her father's handwriting, the coded entries painting a picture darker and more complex than she had ever imagined. Her father hadn't just uncovered corruption. He had unearthed a network, deep, powerful, and ruthless, spanning from the highest government officials to dangerous criminal syndicates. Each page revealed new names, dates, and hidden meetings. The handwriting was shaky at times, as if her father had feared for his life. Amina felt a chill settle over her. The weight of the past was no longer just a story. It was a living, breathing threat looming over her. Tariq noticed the change in her immediately. Where Amina had been quiet but composed, now she was tense, eyes flickering with worry and determination. "You should rest," he said gently one evening as they sat in their spacious living room. "No," she replied firmly. "I need to understand. If I don't, this will consume me." Tariq reached out and took her hand. "We'll get through this, together." That same night, Amina found herself staring out at the city lights, her mind racing. She replayed the day's events, the shadows in every corner of their lives growing longer. Suddenly, her phone vibrated sharply. A message appeared on the screen. Just one word. "Stop." No sender ID, Amina's breath caught. Her fingers trembled as she showed the message to Tariq. "This is getting worse," he said quietly. Days passed, and the threats escalated. Strange cars parked near their building. Unknown numbers called, but stayed silent. Amina's emails were hacked. The private investigator, Raza, warned them repeatedly to be careful. "This is no longer just about your past," Raza said grimly. "It's about control. They want to break you." Despite the fear, Amina refused to back down. She began to investigate on her own, following clues from her father's diary. Her search led her to a small town 2 hours from the city, a place her father had visited shortly before disappearing. Tariq insisted on going with her. He wanted to protect her, but also knew that understanding the truth meant facing the past head-on. The town was quiet, with dusty streets and weathered buildings. It was easy to see why her father had come here. There were old warehouses, forgotten offices, and people who looked like they had secrets. Amina and Tariq checked into a small inn. The next morning, they visited the local records office. Amina asked to see documents related to her father's last days. The clerk was hesitant, but eventually handed over a file. Inside were copies of reports, some missing pages, some marked confidential. Amina's heart pounded. One document mentioned a secret meeting at an abandoned factory. Determined to find answers, they went to the factory that evening. The building was old and crumbling, vines crawling over the walls. As they approached, the sound of footsteps echoed. Tariq pulled Amina back into the shadows. A group of men in dark clothes appeared, talking in low voices. One of them carried a briefcase. Amina's pulse quickened. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the group. A man, with a scarred face and cold eyes. He looked directly at Amina. "So you've come to dig up old ghosts," he said, voice rough. Tariq stepped forward, his presence commanding. "This ends now," he said firmly. The man laughed, a harsh sound. "You think you can stop what's been set in motion? Your father's curiosity got him killed. Don't make the same mistake." The group left as quickly as they had appeared, disappearing into the night. Amina and Tariq exchanged worried glances. They had just crossed a dangerous line. Back at the inn, Amina opened the diary again. A folded note slipped out. She unfolded it carefully. It read, "Trust no one. The betrayal is closer than you think." The words hit her like a punch. Who could she trust? Even Tariq looked troubled. The following days were a blur of meetings with Raza, calls to old contacts, and sleepless nights. Amina felt the walls closing. In every shadow seemed to hide a threat. Every whisper carried danger. One afternoon, as Amina walked through the city park, a sudden scream shattered the calm. She turned to see a young woman running towards her, eyes wild. "Help me!" the woman cried. Amina instinctively reached out, but the woman grabbed her arm tightly. "They're after me too," she said, panic rising in her voice. Before Amina could ask more, the woman darted away, disappearing into the crowd. Amina's heart raced. Who was that woman? What danger was spreading? That night, Tariq received an anonymous tip. It led them to a secret meeting of the syndicate. From a distance, they watched powerful figures exchange envelopes and speak in hushed tones. Amina recognized some names from her father's diary. The web was wider than they imagined. Suddenly a voice whispered in Tariq's ear, "You're meddling in things you don't understand." He turned sharply, but no one was there. The threat was no longer hidden. It was close, watching, waiting. Amina and Tariq knew they had to act. They decided to confront the syndicate head-on. With Raza's help, they planned to expose the truth. But the night before their move, Amina received a chilling message. A video appeared on her phone. It showed her mother, alive but terrified, held captive. "Tell Tariq to stop," her mother's voice pleaded, "or I'm next." Tears blurred Amina's vision. The past had returned with a vengeance. The next day, as Tariq prepared to leave for the confrontation, Amina stopped him. "We can't do this without a plan to save my mother," she said firmly. Tariq nodded, his jaw tight. They would need allies. They reached out to trusted friends, powerful contacts who owed Tariq favors. Together, they prepared for a rescue mission. But time was running out. Every moment brought new dangers, and the shadows of the past were closing in faster than ever. Amina looked at Tariq, determination shining in her eyes. "We fight," she said softly, "for my family, for our future." The storm was here, and they would face it together. The dawn was pale and fragile, breaking slowly over the city as Amina and Tariq prepared for the most dangerous day of their lives. Their small team gathered in the safe house, tense but focused. Raza laid out the plan with precision. The rescue operation, the exposure of the syndicate, and finally reclaiming the peace that had long been stolen from Amina's family. Amina's thoughts were with her mother, held captive somewhere unknown, a silent hope burning fiercely in her chest. She glanced at Tariq. His steady presence was her anchor in this storm. "We will bring her home," he promised. They moved under the cover of darkness, blending with the shadows as they approached. The location shown in the video. It was an old warehouse by the docks, guarded but not heavily. The team split into two groups, one to extract Amina's mother, the other to gather evidence against the syndicate. Inside the warehouse, Amina's heart pounded as she heard muffled sobs. They found her mother bound, but unharmed. Tears streamed down Amina's face as she rushed forward. "Mom," she whispered, pulling her into a tight embrace. Her mother's eyes shone with relief and pride. "You're brave." "My daughter," she said. Meanwhile, Tariq and Raza uncovered hidden documents, proof of corruption and illegal dealings implicating powerful figures. They quickly photographed the files and uploaded them securely. The evidence was enough to bring down the syndicate once and for all. Suddenly, alarms blared. The syndicate had been tipped off. Gunfire erupted. The team moved fast, covering each other as they escaped into the night. Back at their safe house, Amina's mother rested while the team reviewed the evidence. Tariq contacted trusted journalists and authorities. Within hours, news of the syndicate's corruption broke worldwide. The powerful men and women who had haunted Amina's family were arrested. Days later, the city felt different, lighter. The shadows were lifting. Amina and Tariq stood on their penthouse balcony, watching the sunrise. "I never thought the past could change the future," Amina said softly. Tariq smiled. "Sometimes confronting the darkness is the only way to find the light." Amina's mother joined them, her smile full of hope. Together they had faced danger, betrayal and fear, and they had won. The simple woman who had once been kicked out for looking poor now stood tall, not because of wealth, but because of courage, truth, and love. The end.